Home takias. Namaste, sarve mere restadar. So, no, we'll see all my relatives. Well, what an interesting 48 hours. I felt this absolute must just flatline, right? So I did. And I've hopped on once or twice, checked messages, had to watch Salvatore News, Earthmaster, Silky, a couple of tarot card readings, my people, and my wisdom dream astrology. But very, I even cut a lot of them out. Just watching certain ones, just certain pertinent information, and sitting a lot in the silence. Doing some like 963 hertz and some Reiki, but really contemplating. And real nice and smooth. And then, boom, I get the phone call about, even my counselor called this morning. She called. And it's like, well, I don't have a right. Y'all might want to think about getting sponsored by the VA or something, but as far as rights go, I'm flatlined right now. And then and I said, she's like, well, do you want to schedule a couple of weeks out or this and that? And I'm like, nope. I said, I tell you what, when I get my transportation figured out, I'll call you. I said, because that's all I can do right now. I said, I do have waiting for them to pick me up for the rental car. They postponed me for 24 hours. So, and then she said something about, oh, well, let me speak to Deborah about this or that. And I said, well, she might be upset with me. I said, because I called a while back and, I ended up hanging up on her. And I said, and so before I, get ticked off or piss you off, I said, I need to hang up. I'll call you when I get my transportation figured out. She tried to say a couple of other things and said that she would check on me or something like that. And I said, I said, I'm taking my life in my own hands right now, and I'm trying to figure all of this out. So I need to get off of here before I piss you off. And that was that. And we hung up. But it was basically, pretty sweet. And so, and I'm like, wow, I'm a real case. I am a real case. However, I'm in this space, and I will look through some of my notes from some of my dreams. It just happened to flash up when I was checking through my journal app that I don't use it as a journal, it's a writing app. But I jot things down in there, and sometimes I do copy paste in there, or I write my own stuff in there. A lot of it's notes. I use kind of like a notepad instead of a pad of paper. And so I was looking in there, and I saw where it was beginning of August. I think it was August 8th, as a matter of fact, because I remember looking over what was the date of that, because that's interesting. The Three Forks. And I think I shared a day or two ago that it was like I'm at this fork. And I remember yesterday going, it's like there's 3 ways that I can go. And what do I do here? Well, one thing I know for sure is Spirit and my ancestors, my spirit guides, they seem to like guide me right along. Sometimes like today. Here's a good example. Like today. They kept steering me. Like, nope, this is not where you're supposed to be. Nope, this is not where you're supposed to be. And I'm like, oh, but it just felt so good to be out. It was weird. It was really weird driving a car. It was really weird. But the first thing. So I'm in this contemplation, and I was looking up some like long distance e-bikes and that kind of a thing, and it was like, whoa, do you know they've got an e-bike out there that will go 300 miles? I'm like, wow, 300 miles on a single charge. Yeah, I'm not sure how much it can haul around. But then I began, seeing, like, okay, so we're getting ready for big earthly crack-ups and volcanoes and hurricanes. I mean, the shit's getting ready to hit the fan. Has humanity woken up? But those that are awake, we're paying attention. The shit's getting ready to hit the fan, so to speak. The sun is spitting out those spurs. Now, yeah, sure, it went over there, but there's that comet. There's that what do they call, Atlas, right? I think that's the name they've given it, but he just popped out of nowhere. And as soon as I saw it it was like, oh, there's the blue star on its way. Yeah, and they believe that it has some nuclear material with it. I heard that earlier today. But when I saw that and I heard that, I'm like, oh my gosh, oh yeah. And then you see how the sun is interplaying with it, with that big shooting it right. I'm like, So yeah, this stuff is getting ready to happen. And so it's like, okay, the bike that I have right now, well, I'm going to be paddling. It's just really uncomfortable, and part of me doesn't want to get back on her. I gotta admit, I kind of connected with that today. It was like, oh, my wrist, because she works. I'm not complaining. Well, I am complaining a little bit. She works, and it's been an amazing, beautiful experience, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this, but her configuration is a little bit, odd for my size, and so it's a little painful after a few miles, and then I have to, and so I'm like, it could work. Is it ideal? No. Am I worth better? Hell yeah. Go with the motorcycle. Well, how are we going to be able to get fuel? It's not like I can pedal a motorcycle. And I'm like, and beginning of the year, I had made this drawing, me on an e-bike and Rashimi cruising around traveling, and I was really, really psyched about it. Yet, I must admit, I went the other route for a little while. Well, it kind of struck me today. I'm finally receiving some clarity. Number one, getting the car. There was some, well, we don't know where to pick you up, and I'm trying to call them. Nobody's picking up the phone. Nobody's picking up the phone. I'm like, oh, I can't miss this. I cannot miss this. So I called the main line again. They tried to get through. They couldn't get through. Ma'am, just keep calling until you can get through. I'm like, well, okay. Kept calling, because I had missed the call. Because, well, I was not expecting the call. I was told to call at 4 o'clock to make sure I get my ride. And I had 20 minutes yet, so I was in my space, listening, going through, all of the little spirals in my mind, and then just breathing and saying, you've got to give me guidance, I accept, I accept, and I allow, and I surrender into what it is you have for me. That is in alignment with me. Well, there's that ego piece of getting over the whole motorcycle thing, right? Although, it is a good way to travel, and I am definitely worth this motorcycle. However, there's also the practicality of it, and if that's part of the old world that we're letting go of, all the gasoline, all the fossil fuels, well, I've had a really good run on motorcycles. I've been riding for 50 years. 50 years. I started when I was 5 on a dirt bike. There's a few years in there where I did not actually have a motorcycle. About 7 years. Well, closer to 12 maybe. However, while I was married, I think I had my motorcycle, and all it was, bitch, get on back, and then selling my motorcycle to put a deposit, and then never got my bike back until I threatened a divorce. And when he realized I was getting ready for the divorce, he's like, I can't keep a hold of her. And I got my motorcycle back, and I've been riding ever since. So there was just that, we'll say between 11 and 14 years without one. So, and it's been my home, and I have traveled. I traveled all through India, I traveled through Sri Lanka, so the United States numerous times over. And it's been fun. However, if, I could be the same grandmother badass on an e-bike, especially if it's one that's, will travel a pretty good distance on a charge. And then you get where you're going with an e-bike, especially that you can get off the main places and so forth, and that's what's pretty cool. So getting back down there was like, oh, it was so nice to be back down at the river. So we made a little hip-hop skip-scop over into California. I thought, well, let's, I thought I'd celebrate a little bit, and usually your first time into a dispensary, they give you a pretty good discount. And so I thought, well, since I'm here, let's just check it out. Oh, Man, that first one I went into, they could have kept that shit. They were not very helpful, and the music was so loud, and it was like crazy. So it's like, let's just get out of here. This is nuts. We go to the one just down the way. They're almost like right next to each other, and super, super, super sweet. But you know, they only take cash. Didn't have any left from my last adventure. So it's okay, let's get out of here. Make it to the vet clinic. Got there 2 minutes of 6 and they had already locked their door, and I'm like, oh, really? So we leave there. And I picked up my little cucumber drink. We're like, well, where were we gonna go? Oh, we couldn't get back in. And I thought, well, we'll get my cucumber drink and we'll go back down to the river and watch the sunset. You know, it's an opportunity. I've got a car. Why not? Well, that wasn't gonna happen because the clicker didn't work. So I'm like, well, now I gotta get this rental car inside of here, and the clicker doesn't work. I can't figure out how to open the bitch. And then finally get her open, and I was like, how do you get the batteries out of there? So we drive back to the apartment complex, and I asked the neighbor. Of course, he's like, mine doesn't look like this one. This is really, really weird. He says, I don't want to break it. Go to the battery shop. So we go to the battery shop. Closes at 7. We were there at like 3 minutes of 7. Closed. I'm like, great. So I'm like, we're just like batting zeros here, buddies. Let's just go back to the apartment. And so we did. It was fun to drive around. It was a bit frustrating. It was like I said, just batting zeros other than being able to hang out at the river for a little while. And it was like, let's just get back. Let's just get back. And so we make it back. Of course, I park it on the outside, and I'm like, it's a rental car. I had to pay for insurance. So, you know, it is what it is. They said I was fully covered. I locked the door, come on in, and it just like, immediately, it's like this, just flew right off of me. And I'm like, thank you. I'm done. And it was like, just a little bit nuts, just a wee bit nuts. So Rashimi, he is passed out. We have our agenda for tomorrow, and you know, the whole point was for the transportation piece. But the funny thing is, I got the rental car, let them choose the vehicle. I got it for $52, right? Then you get the veteran discount. I got a pretty good deal on her for the amount of time that I will have her. Whatever. I'm like, I don't know if I can get the e-bike in there. So what came to me is, get your errands done, go see the motorcycle. See how that feels. Be sure to make the right decision. The e-bike, I have a feeling I'm gonna just be pumping up her tires, putting a little bit more juice in there, and selling her. And then order an e-bike or get the motorcycle, one that is actually going to, that way when I invest in the hard rubber tires, if the e-bike is the way to go, then I can get the ones that are absolutely correct. So it's basically going to be making this decision of the motorcycle or the e-bike. I could do both, but why? Because then there's all of that with the tags, title, insurance, all of that happy stuff. And we are being called to decolonize. And that's all part of colonizing. Now, my dad rode a motorcycle for all his life. It wasn't until I got my motorcycle endorsement, a little Honda Rebel, when I got out of the military. My dad was like, well, maybe I ought to get my motorcycle endorsement. And he used my Honda Rebel to go get his motorcycle endorsement. Now, he rode all those years, never had a motorcycle endorsement. Nope. I don't know. I mean, yeah, he had a driver's license, but it was just interesting. So, and they usually, 99% of the time, they never pull you over unless you do something really, really stupid. Or you do something really, really stupid. And that's usually the only reason that they pull you over. Well, except for in Texas. And they don't, yeah, so, I mean, I considered that when I had Raven. It was just like, just kind of let all that slide right on out and don't even be concerned about it. And, but it's a little difficult to make sure you have appropriate tags. So the motorcycle that I've connected with is a really, really excellent deal. Excellent deal. And a beautiful bike with all the bells and whistles. There just wasn't a title. And I had to think twice and breathe twice and all of that as to whether I wanted to go forward with that. And I checked into it, and luckily I did. There would have been no way that I would have been able to title and register her because it was a California and lost title, and only the owner, the one on the title, can request a new title. I just wasn't ready to go that route, so he's in the process of working that. I don't know. Letting it all go and just being with the e-bike and having a good trailer on it where I can haul the drum around and all of our stuff. And there's no such thing as Geico for e-bikes. However, if she's got the fat tires and you put the rubber tires on her in the trailer, you'd have to have a pretty whacked out situation to not keep moving forward. And it's definitely one way to make sure I stay in shape. I don't know, I'm still sitting with it. I am still sitting with it. I have a feeling tomorrow, each day, will be another added clarity. One of the things that I realized as I was listening to, it's either Eye of Wisdom or Wisdom Dream, actually, they all pretty much, because they're spot on. One just gives it very clear, concise, short, and sweet, and the other one adds a little more elaboration around each detail of these planetary and the energies of the day or 2 days. It was the dark moon. Hadn't even heard of the dark moon till today. And with the dark moon, it only happens every, I forget how many years or months. And with our planetary alignment and this dark moon is goes silent. Just disappear. Well, I disappeared 2 days ago, something like that, Tuesday. I just flatlined. It's like, I'm done. I woke up Wednesday morning. It's like, no, I'm not coming out. I need to do this. I need to go into silence. I need to listen, be with myself. And there's been some emotional purges. There's been some emotional purges, some things that I've touched base with in myself. And then today, you know, just realizing how much of a case I can be. And yet doing my best to pull up, you know, just, well, one, be with the emotion. And get to that space of, wow, okay. Recognizing, am I coming from fear, or am I coming from love, or am I coming from empowerment, am I coming from peace, am I coming from this or that, you know, and just really being with myself and listening, going beyond my ego as much as possible, and listening, because yeah, there's that part of me that wants to be that badass motorcycle animal chaplain on the motorcycle, and I'm like, okay, let's let that go for now, gracefully, and just work where we are, right here, right now, connecting with the earth. So that's what keeps leading me back to the e-bike, the e-bike, the e-bike. And as much as I appreciate Garuda, she's not the one. It's kind of like when I had gotten a real nice motorcycle and started getting my wings again after my ex-husband. It was, this is good. This is what I need to be doing. This is right. But this bike ain't gonna make it across the country. And I ended up with the Road King. I took the leap and got the Road King. It feels like that. So anyway, I need to stop this. I've gone on long enough. Trying to keep this in a shorter time span so that they load up a little bit better and easier for me. And thank you. Thank you, Great Spirit. Yes, I realize I was a case today. And I've been a case for a couple days. However, I'm grateful for going through the chaos to receive the clarity and take it one step at a time. And let's see what kind of clarity we get tomorrow. Hey, hey.